goes down like 2 inches.
We're live.
Oh shit! While my chair's, I'm trying to adjust my chair.
Live and alive.
Come on, come on, come on. Man,
Hawks.
watching Atlanta gave me nightmares.
Yeah,
They
Trae
are
Young's very
scary,
good.
man.
Very
Yeah.
hard to scheme against because he just reacts so quickly and does whatever you give to him. He'll just take that.
He goes so
Very controlled.
fast. It's like,
What's up with the shirt, Spike?
oh my, our night guy, Keith, hosts a net podcast, and they put these shirts out like 2 years ago when they first got Kyrie. And I thought they were hilarious, and he started selling them again, so I bought one from him.
What was the drama 2 years ago that
I think
brought
it
the
was
shirts
just
on?
that the first drama in Brooklyn was when he wouldn't go to the bubble, when he thought they shouldn't play. And then the next drama in Brooklyn was when he left for 3 weeks to go to like his sister's birthday party or something. Is that what it was?
Do you remember that? Yeah.
I think they're like, it is, along with the Ben Simmons shoot a three coward, is, I asked him, I was like, Keith, like, what part of Kyrie are you supporting specifically? He was like, well, we're fans. It's like, all right, buddy. Well, you got my $24.99 piece of
I do
history.
wonder, like, how many players, especially in the play-in, how many players like really want to make the playoffs?
Yes.
Because they don't get any more. I mean, at least
rather
in the
just
short
go
term,
home.
they don't get any more money,
Yeah.
right? They make the same amount of money no matter what. So, in my mind, it's like, yeah, they're doing what they love to do. They're playing basketball. That's cool. But like, I like to be a comedy writer, but I also like when I get a day off.
Right.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So I bet there's like a handful of guys that are like, I'm good.
Yeah. Would rather just lose. Yeah.
Get to go home, go on vacation. Why not?
I would love to know what it would be like if Kyrie was a Sixer.
Would you?
Well, no, just like in terms of how the fan base would react to him. Like, look, him not on your team, he's like kind of like, this whole being is hilarious, I think. Sharp, calling him coffee shop, is funny. He's like a coffee shop philosopher. It's like everything in his head that he says sounds like brilliant, but it doesn't, he's a funny guy. I can only imagine what Sixers fans would be like with Kyrie. I think amazingly defensive about him sometimes too. He would divide, I think. We ready to go? Let's do it. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by MortgageCS. Become a MortgageCS Ricky VIP by going to mortgagecs.com/Ricky. And Kinetic Skateboarding, get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, the Sixers prepare for their series against Toronto, which starts on Saturday. Kevin Durant says that Joel Embiid should be the MVP. That guy is a baller, real hooper. Ben Simmons is, quote, being challenged by his teammates, and we deep dive into the mailbag. Before we get started, I mentioned on the last pod, and it is available now, the Rights to Ricky Sanchez playoff pack from Stateside Vodka, which includes 2 rocks glasses. This is a rocks glass without the stuff on it. They are engraved. Each rocks glass is engraved. One says playoff motherfucker, and the other one says regular season bitch. And you get a 750 milliliter bottle of Stateside Vodka. I think best thing to do, we'll put it in the post for this podcast, and you can go to that link. So you can buy it. It's $49.99. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
Larry, sweetie, the man is here.
Say the name, I say the name, I say the name.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all.
So this is what happens when you record the podcast live. I knocked over my stateside vodka and iced tea. It's all over my desk and my floor. I'm Spike, and that's Mike. CJ, can you pop up, talk to Mike for like 2 minutes while I get a towel? Because it's going to be a disaster. Just you guys bullshit for a minute or two for the fans, for the YouTube fans. I'll be right back.
Mike,
Here we are.
how are you?
It's bound to happen. He drinks his one drink every pod, holds it up, waves it around.
You would think
Finally
he'd get better with time on how to
No.
balance a drink.
No. Worse.
Do you want to talk about your new setup?
Oh, I'm at my
Location?
sister's. I'm at my sister's in Phoenix, seeing some family. So you might hear some kids and dogs in the background.
Nice.
Got the Pels Spurs playing game right to my left.
That's right.
So
Oh
living it
man.
up.
Fun time in Phoenix.
Woke up very early. I woke up at spike hours today
Uh-oh. 4?
to catch
you
my
s-
flight.
You started the day in LA.
Yeah. So
Long day
we're
for
fading.
you.
We're fading pretty hard. This is what we do. This is playoff mode. Me, not at 100%. Spike, spilling shit. Let's go.
Right.
We're back.
You know what? We'll start with an Apple Podcast 5-star review so I can ease in. We're at 3,068 5-star ratings. We have 596 on Spotify with a 4.9 average. This says, great show, dumb rating gimmick. Spike, you sadist. I hope nobody listens to this podcast. Your sponsors don't sponsor it, and that you retire this gimmick immediately. What a waste of everyone's time. You own ours, the poor schlubs who actually listen to this podcast. That was about the rating one. I'm sorry. I'm a disaster right now. That was brought to you by Kinetic Skateboarding. I don't know what I'm doing right now. Something goes wrong, and I love Kinetic Skateboarding, 9.1% off for first order with promo code Dave Silver. All right. I want to start with this, Mike, before we get into everything. Now that I'm trying to settle in, and I've fucking stateside vodka tea all over my fucking desk and floor. You predicted in the last pod, you made a prediction. You said Raptors in 7. I feel like you were particularly down that pod. You've been very angry at Doc Rivers. I feel like you may have taken it out on your prediction. And I want to give you an opportunity to retract that prediction. And this is the final pod before the Raptors series, to see if you've always been the more optimistic of the two, except for the famous "we're fucked" pod, and there have been. Oh no, I was. You were more. You were more optimistic. I'm sorry, I'm a mess. I spilled stateside vodka tea over everything. I want to give you a chance to maybe retract that prediction, because it felt like you were trying to teach Doc a lesson by predicting the Raptors would win.
And he learned it. I'm
Right.
sure he listened and loved it and learned it.
Yeah.
No,
You
I
don't
mean, I
have
think
to.
there's definitely a possibility that Embiid and Harden are just the two best players in the series, and Maxi's good enough, and I think they either win in 5 or lose in 7. I think the longer the series goes on, it probably benefits the team of like high motor athletes and length that are frustrating.
Right. And the Sixers start tensing up a little bit, you know, which is possible for sure.
Because they certainly have more expectations on them. The pressure is definitely more on the Sixers. And if they don't win, if odds are they're going to split in Philly, and then they go to Toronto minus their best wing defender.
Yep.
And if they win, if they all get into a hole, then it's, I don't feel great. Like I, was very calm during the regular season. Because the regular season notoriously doesn't matter, and I hope that still is true to be the case, that like Harden is has the burst that we haven't seen him, and some, there's fewer really bad bench minutes that Doc goes to now that the rotations tighten up, all that stuff. But I think the Matisse loss for half the series is really going to hurt them. I think I'm not ruling out the idea that Doc will just like self-sabotage to prove a point, and the point is that he'll be wrong. And the Raptors are just a terrible matchup. Like I think they're a terrible matchup. I think if they win this series, then I think that they will probably pretty handily beat Miami or maybe Atlanta if Atlanta keeps doing their thing. But I think this is a really, really tough matchup for them. And I just don't feel great about it. I was just thinking, like, the Sixers have not had, like, remind me, I didn't look it up. I was just thinking about it during work today. But, like, the Sixers haven't had, like, a super athletic, high motor wing, I would say, since Jeremy Grant. That was, like, just
a playable.
Getting,
You're not talking about like a two-way bench guy, like a real player. You're talking
no, even a two-way bench guy. I would love. Like I was thinking about like one of the Martin twins, or even what was the game that was just on? Yeah, the Atlanta game. I just any like 6'8" guy that just like runs and gets stuff, like a Derek Jones, just like somebody that was, whether it's physicality or athleticism or just like hustling to like a loose ball. It feels like the Sixers just haven't had those guys in a while. I mean, Matisse kind of is that, but he's obviously not like physically imposing, and his athleticism is unique, and it's more of like a side to side thing rather than like a bruising.
Yeah,
like
he's wispy in terms of his build
type of thing.
Yeah,
it's been a while. I think they just need, I think a lot of people say, when Pat Bev had a great game last night. Pat Bev's great games are always so notorious, and because they're rare, he's not that great of a player anymore. Like he's a fine role player who will occasionally like show up in big spots that like, because he's so bombastic about the way he like, jumping on the table to win a playing game. Like I think it's awesome. Like good for the Wolves, good for their fans. But like the Sixers haven't had a guy like that, and he's not even athletic at this point. But I'm just thinking of like guys, even that Sixers team. I mean, maybe it's Ben, but he's obviously a unique case of it. But I'm just looking at this Raptors team, and I'm going like the Sixers have had none of these types of guys for a really long time.
Yeah, like Siakam and Anunoby and Achua and all these guys that can move around and switch, and yeah, it's a little, terrifying. I mean, it's what I think that the scariest part really is that, and we were talking about this a little bit on the last pod, is the way that they are defensively is going to bring upon our worst fears about Harden and Embiid offensively. Like they're going to make those guys look like bad a lot of times offensively, and that is concerning for a team that isn't as good defensively as they have been in the past.
Yeah,
not even close.
It's interesting because like it was a great Clippers-Wolves game last night, like pure chaos. I love the play-in tournament. Obviously, I do. It's like closer to the NCAA tournament. I love single elimination. The stakes are so high. Guys are just like playing their ass off for the most part, except for Charlotte, who just like gets blown out in playing games, which just bums me out. But like the Clippers, their plan going into that game was, we're not going to let Cat beat us. And we're going to take everything away from him. We're going to double him. We're going to get the ball out of his hands. We're going to be physical with him. Embiid and Cat, not similar, but not like that similar players. Embiid is not, no one's more physical than Embiid. And obviously is way better at getting fouls drawn and all that stuff. But the game plan worked as far as like Cat didn't beat them at all. But that was so much their game plan, and maybe it would have adjusted in a 7-game series, but that was so much their game plan that like once Cat fouled out and played like 6-7 minutes in the second half, they had really no other like adjustment to make, because it was like, okay, Cat's not going to beat us. Okay, everybody else is beating us, and their defense looks low and everything. So I wonder what the Raptors' game plan will be. I think the Raptors are a more disciplined team than the Clippers. I think they play more cohesive basketball than them.
It's almost like a college team on some level, in that they will just keep swarming and swarming and swarming defensively.
It's a swarm. Yeah. So, I mean, they're a good team. I like Toronto a lot. I like rooting for them. I don't think this is like a championship level team. I think they're still like one guy away. But I do think they're going to make it really hard on the Sixers, and it feels like, because of the lack of aside from Embiid,
Mhm.
because of the lack of like overwhelming athleticism in any way to like overpower you and any like bread and butter stuff. It seems like when stuff starts to not work, the mistakes compound themselves and snowball. And I think a lot of the time we thought that was a Ben thing, which it was for sure. But it's definitely not just a Ben thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something about this team that this team is missing in some way where they just don't seem to have, they don't put teams away like and keep them away. They don't like, you can tell that there's a level of anxiety all the time.
Yes.
There.
Well,
and maybe that's because of like they're not a particularly well coached team, or their best player is, you know, a post up center in a time that like it's not as easy to be that as it used to be throughout decades of basketball. But I mean, obviously Harden is one of the best game managers in the league. Maxey is a dynamic threat. This is different than previous years. So I'm hoping that it comes together more, but they just seem a little bit light, a little bit slow, a little bit unathletic, like the same stuff we were worried about them before. And they're obviously a better team than before they got Harden, but this is a really tough matchup for their deficiencies that they already had.
I want to give you a few over-unders for the series in a second. I wanted to, if you're listening, I was talking to DraftKings, and there's going to be a special Ricky same game parlay for every Sixers playoff game. So we'll set it up the day of. I think we'll do 3 or 4 bets, or maybe I'll try to do a giant one at some point. And I'll give Mike some over-unders to preview, but we will have special Ricky same game parlays in the app and on the site for DraftKings. That's where you bet NBA playoffs, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Right now, if you're a new customer, before you do those same game parlays with us, bet $5 on any team to win and get $150 in free bets instantly. Clinch a win no matter what. And then you can play same game parlays with us, do your own same game parlay. And then for each day of the play-in tournament, you get a risk-free bet of up to $10 if your same game parlay doesn't hit. All kinds of shit all over the place. Same game parlays, free shit, all that kind of stuff. DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code RTRS. Bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game during the play-in tournament and get $150 in free bets instantly. It's promo code RTRS at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right. I want to give you a few over-unders for the series. James Harden over under 40% from the field.
I'll say over. I mean, looking at his previous seasons, even in the playoffs, he hasn't shot under 40% for playoffs since his second year in Houston. And the last couple of years have been over 47% from the field, which is obviously a little bit reductive, but I think he's been weak as far as like scoring in the half court has gone lately. And I anticipate that even if he's not back to the way he used to be, it'll still be better than the last like month of just scoring Harden has been, because the distributing Harden has been excellent and very necessary to this team.
All right. Over under Chris Boucher, 16 3-pointers made in the series.
16 3-pointers made in the first half of the first game. I'm going to say over because I'm not going to get burned by it. Like,
He'll make 11 in one
There's
game.
at least one game where he has like 6 threes, like 100%. There'll be a game when he has none, but like there'll be one game for sure where Chris Boucher like has 18 points on 6 shots.
B-Ball Paul, by the way, the Paul Reed Victory Tour t-shirt, Abby has been asking to do a t-shirt for a while. We saved it for now. Abby has designed a couple of Bark in the Park t-shirts, but never one for sale. Did a Paul Reed Victory Tour t-shirt. Hopefully it's up on Friday. We'll send it out in the email. Just subscribe to the newsletter, Corner 3 with Zoe, and we'll send it out there. B-Ball Paul, over under in the series, 29 minutes.
29 minutes total. It's a good over under. Let me just say again, Chris Boucher, like if the Sixers had Chris Boucher, they would have won like 4 championships by now. Just like, let's establish that.
Yep.
B-Ball Paul, 29 minutes. So I think the game's going to go 7. That would
4
be
minutes a game.
A little over 4 minutes a game, but there's going to be a game when he doesn't play. 100%. I'm going to say under, and I really hope I'm wrong. I would kill to be wrong.
Mhm.
Would die to be wrong.
And finally, over under 1.5 Doc Rivers admonishments of the media in press conferences after games.
Over. In just this series?
Yes.
Does this include immediately post when the
Yes.
series ends?
When the
Like, does
season's
it-
over.
Yeah, when the season's over. I'll say over.
Okay. All right. Well, I have a nervous energy for this series that I feel like I haven't had in a while. I still think they're going to win the series. I think it's close. I was on WIP this morning with the camera, and he asked me if I think the Sixers will win, and I have it like at 60% win. Embiid is so much better than anybody on the Raptors. I just hope it comes down to that. As good as the Raptors are and as bad a matchup as it is, this would be an embarrassing loss, I think. I know they only
Add
have
to the list.
Yeah. I know they only have 3 more wins than the Raptors. And I do know how good the Raptors are. I've been scared of the Raptors the entire season. But losing in the first round with James Harden and Joel Embiid, I don't care that they just got together, would be an embarrassing loss. It's an embarrassing loss. So,
Agree.
Kevin Durant was asked who he thinks should be the MVP. Now, if you remember Kevin Durant, he is debatably the best player in the NBA. He is a real hooper and speaks in real hooper language. You have to be a real hooper to understand. He says, if I had to choose, I would go Joel Embiid. He led the league in scoring, double-doubles. His team won 50 games this year. Numbers were incredible. It's a great year. But you can just close your eyes and pick any one of the guys out of the top 6 or 7. You can have a good MVP this year. That shows how great our league is right now and how talented our league is from top to bottom. But I would go with Embiid if I had to choose. It's unfortunate. There's a lot of players that have been controlled by their narrative. Some have been because of the player. Some have been just because of the perception of other people about that player. In Joel's case, more people just like Giannis and Jokic. It's as simple as that. They just prefer them more than Embiid's personality or his story, I guess. Now, this does sort of reinforce Embiid's, if I don't win the MVP, I have to do more. People in Philadelphia have to do more. I really appreciate Kevin Durant saying that Embiid should win. And I think Embiid getting that sort of respect out of a player of that level, I think is really, really telling. Okay? I really think it is. I do think that there is a generally sort of a lack of respect for Giannis amongst our players a little bit, even as good as he is. But I don't know. I don't know what to say other than I know Zach Lowe wrote a whole long thing about why you chose Jokic, but Kevin Durant is the best player in the world, debatably, and you're not. So I'm going to have to roll with Durant as knowing his shit more than Zach Lowe. Sorry,
Yeah,
Zach.
I think definitely people seem to like those guys more.
They hate the process.
I think it's not everybody, obviously, but I think there's a lot of people in the mainstream media or wherever that still like hold the process, hold several things against Embiid. I think some of it is like the process and that he was like born into this culture of losing that they obviously hate and think as a ruins the sanctity of basketball, which has not been ruined since or prior to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they think he's a little like they still think he's the guy that's like shit talking Hassan Whiteside on Twitter, or Drummond or any of those other guys, which I think they're like that's unbecoming. And I think they like the idea that like, I don't know. There's a bunch of different people that voted for different people for different ways. I'm not here to be like hot take guy. I do think Embiid gets dinged by some people for those things that I mentioned, and for whatever reason, Jokic playing without Murray and Porter, even though Porter's bad, is a bigger deal for some people than Ben like sitting out the year. I think also some people blame Embiid for Ben sitting out rather than like praising him for holding the team together and taking a bigger role in like leadership and taking a step forward in that way. I think when somebody's hurt, it's easy to be like, okay, it's my time to rally, versus when someone's like, hey, you're part of the reason why I'm not here and I'm sitting out, and it's like muddy and we try to get him back. Like that's obviously a way muddier thing than like, oh, the guy is out for the year. I think it requires a lot more. I think, there so many of these awards like get down into semantics, right? In like a very unfun way. Like how do you define most valuable? Well, Webster's defines valuable at whatever the fuck. And it's like it should be some combination of all of it, right?
Yeah.
Like your place in the league and how important you are to your team, how much your team would suffer if you weren't there, what the narrative is coming into the season from previous years, like where you're headed, what stage in your career you are, like all that stuff. Obviously statistically, but like you put the whole package together, and I think it should be Joel. Like I just think it should be Joel. And the fact that Jokic won one last year, like that's part of like the story that you tell, like especially if it's close. Like and Giannis has already won too. I've said this already like in several podcasts, but I really just think like Joel taking a step forward in so many ways, carrying his team, being the first center to lead the league in scoring since Shaq, also being one of the best defensive players in the league, and will probably finish second team all defense. I mean, it's just very clear to me that it should be him. If none of them had won it before, and they, the Sixers and Bucks record has been tied, and obviously Giannis is the Bucks teammates for all of the year have been better than Embiid's teammates. You can argue that now it's like closer with Harden, but like to integrate Harden that way, that long into the season, and how long he didn't play with Ben, all that stuff. So like Giannis had way more help to do the things that he's doing. Giannis is an incredible defensive player, but like it's a different kind of
You can't base
mode when he's not carrying the defense in the way that Embiid is. He makes a ton of things happen. I'm not saying it's maybe a reductive way to look at it, but like Embiid is more important to his defense than Giannis is to his defense.
Yes.
And that's a scheme, whatever. But like, I just look at the totality of it, and I think it should be Embiid, and it's not to take away anything from Giannis or Jokic. They're obviously incredible players who deserved MVP for several years and will continue to. But like, it's Embiid's this year, and you should give it to him, and they're wrong if they don't.
Well, I'm going to take something away from them, and it would be the chance to win the MVP this year. And my final statement on this is this, and I think this is the most important thing. CJ, you might want to look this up to make sure that I'm correct. You might want to get on Google. I believe Kevin Durant has 2 finals MVPs. Zach Lowe doesn't have any. So if I'm to trust one of those 2 people, one person with 2 finals MVPs might be best player in the NBA, the other person not, I'm going to trust Durant. So if you're on the fence, tie there has to go to Durant. A quick look. I don't know if this is honestly true or not. I love Scoop B's stories. I love him. He's a Twitter guy.
Can you explain who he is?
He's just a fucking a basketball reporter guy on the internet. He works for a Sportsbook now, and he's always just been on the internet, knowing players. He was the one, I believe, Scoop B was the one that said that Markelle Fultz got in the dirt bike accident. I believe that was Scoop B. It could be true. I don't know if it's true. I think it's true though. So, but he is verified. So you have to take this stuff seriously. So in a week where reports come out from Shams, who is represented by Clutch, by the way, and then Woj, that Ben Simmons is ramping up and could play toward the end of the first round. And then Steve Nash says he hasn't even run yet. I don't know. Steve Nash, good liar though. The best thing about the Scoop B tweets is that I don't know how to read them. Like I initially when I read them as that Ben Simmons was like progressing. But then when I really read them, I read them as they were sort of like not positive. So here we go. Nets players have been challenging Ben Simmons in practice, sources tell Bally Sports. One Nets player told Simmons in practice yesterday, make something happen in your life. There's been no change in Simmons' return timetable other than possibly later in the playoffs.
Yeah, it doesn't convey a tone.
No.
It could be read either way.
Right.
It could be like, they're challenging him because he's on the way up and he's responding
Right.
to it well, and that's how it's going.
Yep.
Versus, wow, nice play, Trey Murphy. Versus, they're challenging him because they're tired of his bullshit, and they're telling
Yes.
him like literally do anything at all,
Make something happen in your life.
make anything happen.
And then
so I need like an answer key of like a tone. Can
Right.
he read his tweets aloud so we can know
get
how?
Scoop B on. Tweeted him, CJ. See if Scoop B will come on. And then his follow-up tweet, also hard to read the tone. And this is my favorite one. And for some reason, I definitely believe this quote. One Nets fixture believes that Ben Simmons can play in later rounds and tells Bally Sports that Simmons' swag is at an all-time high right now. Quote, he walks around like he's Jordan. What does that mean?
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It's so good.
Because that again could be negative. Like, yeah, he's just dressing up.
Right.
He's wearing expensive clothes.
Yeah.
He's walking around like he's one of the best players in the league, but he's
Yeah.
not playing. There was a who did I read? Who was I listening? Was it Stan Van Gundy? It was somebody talking about basketball on some platform, which
Mhm.
narrows it down. Where they were like, yeah, of course Ben Simmons isn't ready to play yet. He's not in shape. Like, he has to like get in shape. And it's going to take him time to get in shape. And it's like, what was he doing all season? What was
Yeah.
he?
He's
Like,
playing Call of Duty.
Kyrie came right in when he was allowed to play. And
Yep.
then it's like, okay, there he goes. Now he can play. And he's playing.
Not only
It's
did
not
he
like
come
he's
in,
sitting
he
at
was
home like unable to work. Like, you
Kyrie
could
was
get,
fucking
like, hey,
awesome when he
couple
came in, by the
practices,
way.
But it's not whatever it is going on, whatever he was dealing with the Sixers, he's still dealing with in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And it seems to not have been like solely Joel Embiid's fault,
No,
as some
probably
people wanted to claim it to be. You can
His
blame
sw-
Doc. I don't give a shit about blaming Doc, but you can't blame Joel for anything.
His swag's at an all-time high. That's what reports are saying. Do something in your life. We'll get to a couple mailbag questions right after. MortgageCS. Oh, boy. They are somebody you need. You get a mortgage, boy, do you need somebody you can trust. You need somebody not beholden to a bank, not beholden to any lender. You need a mortgage. MortgageCS stands for Mortgage Concierge Service. If you're a Ricky listener, you're going to be a VIP. They actually treat everybody awesome, but Ricky listeners get something special. We have our own place on the website. Go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky. Become a MortgageCS VIP. Here's what they are. There's two things here. There's mortgage broker, mortgage lender. Mortgage lender is like the bank or whatever that lends out the money. Mortgage broker is the one that goes to all the banks and gets you the best rate. They are a mortgage broker. The thing is, a lot of those brokers are tied to certain banks. They don't tell you that. They have other, goals other than making sure you are comfortable, making sure you are serviced. But that's not what MortgageCS is. They're completely independent from right here in Delaware Valley. And they are going to make sure that getting a mortgage is something that you understand when you leave. Look, maybe somebody at the end of it beats their rate. You go with somebody else. MortgageCS doesn't care. As long as you walk away knowing more than when you got there. They're available for you anytime, morning, noon, or night. Text their CEO, the CEO of MortgageCS. You can text Ben right now, 267-391-7425. That's 267-391-7425. That is his cell number. You call or text him anytime. And if you've ever bought a house, you'll know you're going to need that mortgage broker to be available to you at any time. You might need a pre-qualification letter at 10 o'clock at night after you see a house. 5 a.m., whenever you need it, MortgageCS is going to be there. And they're going to teach you about what a mortgage is. It's not just about getting the best rate. It's about having a partner. MortgageCS is going to be your partner. Adam Kasabi even approves of MortgageCS. Visit mortgagecs.com/Ricky to schedule a phone consultation or Zoom, or call or text their CEO, Ben, right now, 267-391-7425, any time of the day or night. Mention you're a Ricky listener. They'll take care of you. If I don't convince you, fucking idiot. But if I don't convince you, Google MortgageCS and read all of the 5-star reviews. MortgageCS.com/Ricky or their CEO, Ben, at 267-391-7425. CJ, I will read their whole long thing at the end of the pod before we sign off. Here we go. The mailbag Couple of mailbag questions. Good ones in here. Oh, actually, before we do, the hard to stomach YouTube comment of the week comes from J Bart. CJ making his move to take over. Congrats on hitting 7,000 YouTube subscribers. Congratulations. We give that victory to CJ. That is his victory. He gives the thumbs up only to the YouTube.
Pour a little stateside vodka on our desks to celebrate.
Yep. It's sticky stateside vodka. All right. This comes from Charlie. I'm a longtime listener of the Ricky, but this is the first time I've written into the mailbag. You guys, along with other listeners, are usually able to convey my personal anger enough to where I don't feel the need to write my own opinions, but right now feels different. As much as I hate the MVP discussion, it's simply sickening to me that Joel isn't going to win it. My frustration from this has only been amplified by Doc's dickhead coaching and comments about our king B-ball Paul. The playoffs start this weekend, and I could not be less excited. I have absolutely no faith in Harden performing when it matters. I know Doc is going to be violently outcoached by Nick Nurse, and I can't stop getting flashbacks in my sleep of the Kawhi shot because we're playing Toronto. I guess what I'm asking for is some reassurance that it's all going to be okay. Mike?
Well, we have Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and that's cool. So
Yeah.
I think in some sense it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think people, even if you don't like love having Harden right now and are rightfully a little scared or maybe more scared of the contract they're going to have to give him
Mm-hmm.
if they want to keep him here, like Ben hasn't played for Brooklyn since the trade. And so
His swag is at an all-time high.
that's huge. But
Yeah.
like Seth Curry, who's like ideally like a 20 minutes a night bench scorer that has in the playoffs that has like, you know, significant wing size and length defensively next to him to make up for his mistakes. And Andre Drummond, who I've beaten into the ground that like I don't think he's a really playable option defensively for long stretches of playoff series. And two, late first round picks probably. That's like
Mm-hmm.
you take that risk for Harden, So I don't know if people are still making the argument that that was a bad trade. I think it was definitely a risk worth taking. We've talked about the Halliburton thing. Halliburton, by the way, my guy Tyrese Halliburton, who I love, did also said Joel should be MVP.
Oh, did he?
So
I didn't see
monitoring
that.
that for him already buttering up to our fan base for future Sixer needs. Yeah, I mean, like I'm negative because of the Matisse thing, because of the Doc thing, because there just seems to be like when they're confident, they look really good, and it doesn't take much to shake the confidence
Mm-hmm.
of this team as a unit. And Toronto's a tough matchup, so they can absolutely, if the Sixers won 4 out of 5 brutal games, like 91-88, it wouldn't like totally shock me. And then you get Miami, who like the Sixers have looked pretty decent against Miami this year.
Yeah.
And Joel's going to bring it for Jimmy. And Miami, as good as they are, and they are very good, they also have a few like serious weaknesses, and that like a lot of their, it's kind of similar to the Sixers in some sense, where like the guys can like either shoot or play defense, and so then you start to there's ways to expose them as well and go out Tyler Hero defensively and all that stuff. So
I would say much like the Sixers have historically had players that are too important. Like Tyler Hero is too important for the Heat. Like I think Tyler Hero is good, but like he might be their best offensive player, and I don't think that you're going to win a championship with Tyler Hero as your best offensive player. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's their best offensive player, but I would agree that he's too important for the team. And look, we've been doing this since Joel's second goddamn year, and every year I go into the playoffs and I'm like
sky high,
trying to be fucking optimistic about these assholes and thinking that it's the year. And some of them should have been, and there were mistakes made that correctable mistakes that would have gotten them over the top. And I'll believe that one Chris Boucher or Kelly Olynyk or name anybody away from being a multi-time champion. But this year they have the most talent they have, and for whatever reason I'm not optimistic, and I can feel other people also not being optimistic. And maybe that's nice. Maybe it's just nice. Maybe we just like need to come into the Sixers with a level of like these motherfuckers and dare them to prove it to us, because I don't know many people that are like, we're going to just like tear through the East right now. Like they should, they have the talent to do so, at least the top end talent, but I don't think anybody's like feeling that necessarily. So let's let them fucking prove it that they are actually the team that we think that they should be and could eventually be. So I don't think it's bad to feel pessimistic, I guess, is my response to that.
I'm looking at the Sixers still minus 180 at DraftKings, which is
for the series.
Yeah, which is stronger. I had guessed minus 150. MOC said minus 125. Minus 180 is pretty heavy favorite. At least what compared to what I thought it was going to be. You know.
And if they lose the series, if they lose in 7 or whatever it is, then I can be an off-season motherfucker, and that's also fine.
Well, we've always been off-season motherfuckers. I mean, that's really, right, when it comes down to it. This comes from Matt, basketball related. If you swap Doc Rivers with Nick Nurse and everything else is the same, do the Raptors make the playoffs, and are the Sixers the favorites to come out of the East?
I don't know. I'd be really interested to see. So much of Nick Nurse's, he hasn't been a head coach for that long. He's a unique head
4
coach.
years? Yeah.
But like it seems like him and both him and Ty Lue, they like to coach in ways like they have the teams that they like, it seems like. You know what I mean? Like it seems like they both want long switchable like athletes that can play both ends of the court and like create havoc for people and like switch pretty much everything. Both teams, not the Clippers when Zubats is in, who by the way just got roasted over and over again in pick and roll last night. But for the most part, both teams like to switch a lot and make it hard on you to start any offense. So I wonder with a guy like Embiid what that would look like, for Nick Nurse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he's both Ty Lue and Nick Nurse are really smart coaches, so I think they would figure it out and play to their strengths the same way that like everyone thought that Daryl is just like ultra math guy and like wouldn't believe in like having Embiid on the team even or whatever, which is obviously reductive. But I think the Sixers with a better head coach and maybe more time and maybe like one more rotation player if Elton and Daryl had time to like get that guy, I think absolutely talent wise they should be the favorites to come out of the East. But if not Brooklyn, I guess. But we're not there. And I think Toronto is better talent wise. They're not just Nick Nurse. I think even with Doc, they make the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, I think they make the playoffs. I think they're much better with Nurse though. I think Nurse has proven that. Non-basketball, if you had to stake your reputation on one movie that is relatively unknown and not very popular, but you think it's incredible, what would it be? Essentially asking, what movie do you love but isn't well known?
Let me look. You answer first.
Well,
as in like a movie that's not well known, but that I could show it to people that don't know it and be like, you're gonna like this. Like I feel confident in that. Like an unknown like crowd pleaser kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
I think it's worth noting during pretty much this entire podcast, Jason and Abby have been in the chat talking about Paddington 2.
Yeah, everybody. I haven't seen it. Everybody loves it though.
Are they sarcastically loving it, or like what are we doing?
No, people love it. People genuinely love it.
Seems genuine.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is it half cartoon, half regular people? Is it all cartoon? Like, what's the deal? CJ, you seem to know.
It's not a real bear.
No.
And then everybody else is a person. Yeah.
I mean, is it a?
It's like I think it's like Ted in that way. With the movie about the bear.
Yeah, I believe so. I haven't seen it, but from pictures I've seen, it's similar to Ted. I don't know. Abby, chime in.
A movie I just saw that I love, and I think I mentioned it on the filter, and I know it just came out, but it's in my head is All My Friends Hate Me, which is a British movie that is partially horror and partially thriller and partially comedy, and I really liked it. And then another movie that probably nobody knows is a movie called Thunder Road, which is a movie by Jim Cummings. And it was originally a short, sort of not based on the Springsteen song, but it was originally a short and it became a full movie. And it's mostly Cummings. And I love like sort of uncomfortable movies. And I loved Thunder Road. So those are the two I would say. All My Friends Hate Me and Thunder Road.
I have a tough time knowing what is like known versus what isn't. Like I feel like Thunder Road is very well known among like people that care about that stuff.
Yeah, but like, I wouldn't say it's well known.
A ton of movies wouldn't be even close to like, movies that I think are very well. I don't know. I don't have an answer right now that I'm happy with.
Okay. I think if you were to ask probably 100 normal people if they've heard of Thunder Road, like maybe one would know it. I think it's probably not in your entertainment world or my weirdo movie world. It's probably well known, but not anything more than that.
I'm gonna say Mamma Mia too. That's gonna be my answer. People think it's not good, but it's great. It's a delight. Can't beat it.
And then final one. This comes from Ryan. Hello, CJ and Spike and Mike. Thank you for the unhinged and completely validated Mike rant on Monday's show. It was therapeutic hearing someone articulate every feeling I've had about Doc. My basketball question is, which matchup or single Raptors player concerns you the most? I know Tobias has been better recently, but I'm concerned about him getting exposed on switches against Siakam and honestly Embiid for that matter. It pains me to say, but Simmons always did a great job limiting him, and without Matisse in Toronto, it will be hard to see the Sixers effectively slowing him down.
Yeah, for sure. They miss Simmons defensively in the series a lot. Big time.
I think
even if Matisse was there, they'd still miss him because then Matisse could be like the secondary guy,
right?
Who even like whether it's Van Vliet or even like chasing Gary Trent around screens, like they're gonna miss a lot of that. But I'm excited to see Embiid on Siakam and see if he can like. Siakam has gotten significantly better. He hits so many tough shots, like wrong foot, weird, like.
I like
going opposite way, like brings the ball back. You can't do anything about it. He always gets to his right shoulder and kisses off the glass. Like he's a really interesting player, who is like kind of the point guard there. Like they let him create a lot because they like running Van Vliet off screens.
Yeah, I'm not really buying what Siakam's selling. Really, I never have. He's a good regular season player. I wouldn't want the ball in his hands. There's a lot of their players that I like, but he's not one. I honestly, the matchups I'm worried about, which is the same thing I've mentioned, is just the defense on Embiid and Harden. I'm terrified of that. Like I think they're going to make Harden look fucking horrible. Is what I think it's going to be. Like that is my concern. Is there going to make
the
Harden
expectation is that Harden's going to go going to try to like griff for fouls and he's not going to get it, and then that's like going to like cripple the offense and allow for like easy fast break looks for Toronto while the Sixers are complaining because the Sixers already are not a good transition team, obviously, and not getting the loose balls, all that stuff. I would say if they lose because Harden doesn't look very good and Embiid's getting doubled and guys aren't missing shots, it's going to be like, okay, if Maxey like plays like shit, which is hard to imagine at this point because he hasn't been like really bad for even like back-to-back games in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be pretty bummed out for him. I mean, obviously it'd be like a good growing experience because this is like, he's still early in his career and he's already taken such a leap, but just for him to like, if he laid an egg in this series, I would feel very upset for him because he's had such a phenomenal, unique season for a guy that's young and taking on so much responsibility so quick. But I agree, like Tobias worried, Danny, a lot of responsibility on those hips, on that groin,
that diaper.
It'd be nice if Shake got hot. It'd be nice if Shake, competed defensively, made a couple things happen. Obviously in the games Matisse plays, it'd be nice if he had some shots and Harden, like if there's some like Harden Matisse cutting situation that they can expose again while they're doubling Embiid and all that stuff. Yeah. Watching the Minnesota game last night, it was really cool to see Chris Finch, who they seem to really like playing for a lot over there.
Yep.
Like not be afraid to make several late game substitution type things. Obviously, I love Jared Vanderbilt. Always have. He had a huge block at the end of the game. But it was cool to see a coach that was just like, we're going with the hot hand. We're going with defense. We're making choices and not just being like, here's my guys, like, go win us a basketball game. And I hope that there's some level of Doc and the coaching staff being like, not just allowing Toronto to dictate everything and actively, like, you know, in late game situations when in crunch time, like subbing guys in and out so that they can feel like they're reacting to you, not just getting like settled into here's what they're going to do. They're going to do the same thing every time. It's going to be a dump into Embiid. Everyone's going to stand there. Like, I would love for it to not be that, but I worry that it will.
Final thing, another movie, Dark City, starring Kiefer Sutherland. Very, very strange movie about like alien type things that change who everybody is at midnight every night. As like an experiment on people. Very, very strange movie. And also, I think everybody's kidding with the Paddington 2 thing. It's very funny bit that everybody's in on, but there's no way I'm watching Paddington 2. And there's no way, like, nobody endorses a movie that much as everybody's endorsing this. It's a bit. I'm not falling for it. Last chance. You're still saying Toronto 7?
Yeah. And am I playing mind games with myself? For sure.
Yep.
For sure. But this team's hurt me too many times. So I would love to be wrong. I would love to just watch Embiid and Harden be two of the best players in the league, and obviously the two of the best players in the series. And I would like for Doc to not fuck with me here and play fucking DeAndre Jordan in the worst possible matchup for him.
Well, what is a big five, Mike? Could OG Anunoby be considered a big five? Chris Boucher?
No.
I think they're big people compared to you.
No.
Compared
If
to you?
Dale Davis suits up for Toronto, then I think absolutely DeAndre, come on in. Start him. But without a Dale Davis, without friggin' Brad Miller, right?
Yeah.
Brad Miller.
Yeah.
Wasn't there also a Philly named Brad Miller? Same guy. Not same guy. Same name.
Definitely not the same person.
Not the same guy,
Yeah.
but same name. Some intersport names when you're like, that's the same guy. It's hard to like take it from my brain. But
Yeah. All right.
yeah. If B-Ball Paul needs 9 minutes a game. He needs 9 minutes a game, and he needs to be able to work through his mistakes. I don't want to see a lineup where it's like Tobias and Danny and George Niang were playing like small ball. Like, that's going to work, because it's not going to work. It never worked. They haven't put the time in to make it work. You don't have the personnel to make it work. You don't actually believe in it. So you're just trying to like steal minutes because you don't trust B-Ball Paul because he's weird. If that happens, and it's going to happen, 100% Doc's going to go small when B-Ball Paul like does breathes wrong, or like, high fives with his left hand or something. And Doc's going to be like, whoa, I don't know about this guy. Pretty weird. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be really upset about it. I plan on being very upset.
All right. Well, we will talk to you after the game. Before we go, I'd like to remind you that advertisement for MortgageCS that we did is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. MortgageCS is an equal opportunity mortgage broker and arranges loans with third-party providers and does not make any mortgage loan commitments or fund any mortgage loans. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. This information is presented for informational purposes only by Rates for Us, LLC, DBA, MortgageCS, Company, NMLS 1464766, licensed by the PA Department of Banking and New Jersey Department of Banking and Insurance. Visit mortgagecs.com for more information. Ben Stucker, NMLS ID number 168345. Are you down with TT?
Yeah, it's important for you guys to be reminded of that, and so just make sure that's all factored into your life.
Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, I guess you do know Lickface.